Good morning, people. It is Tuesday. I have my coffee as usual, and it's in the morning. I was doing videos really late at night, but really late at night just didn't work for me anymore. I get up at 6:30 typically so that I can make coffee for myself and my girlfriend before she goes to work, and sometimes make her food for work. I wanted to talk about a little bit of reiteration and a little bit of newer information as far as custom rods go. Now, my concept with spinning rods, which I'm actually really starting to get back into over bait casters, even though I still love bait casters, because there's just some versatility with them with casting that you can't get, or it's really hard to achieve with a bait caster. Now, there's some casting you can do with a bait caster you can do way better than spinning. So there's pros and cons to both sides of the coin when it comes to what type of rod and reel. Right now, I'm speaking specifically about custom rods. Now, it's been a couple years now. I had a 7'2" custom ultralight, all brand new stuff at the time. Blank reel seat was made locally, cork grip with a foam fighting butt, real long taper. It has a really good strong section of backbone, but a lot of bend at the front. And it has everything I want in an ultralight, and nothing that I don't, which if you're looking in terms of what you really want as to what you can use, you're not going to get that unless you get a custom rod. You're just not. You're always going to find something to nitpick about. No matter if you spend, $200-300 on a St. Croix or a Seeker or a Temple Fork, there's going to be things that you're just not going to like. And it's unfortunate because you can go spend a couple $100 and get a perfectly kick-ass ultralight, and it'll be exactly what you want. And right now, I'm just talking ultralights. I'm not going in dynamics of bigger size rods right now. So what I ended up getting was this 7'2" long taper parabolic bend ultralight made by Ron Weber of Southwest Custom Rods. Now, Ron Weber is an older gentleman that I expect is retired and does this as his primary hobby and source of income. But he's a really lovable guy. If you get on a subject, he can talk for a while about it, but he also likes to be to the point, which I can appreciate as a businessman, to want to get to a point at some point in time instead of just talking. I can get that, especially when you're in your home environment doing a business, because I used to be that way. So he's very curt and courteous. He's a kind-hearted man. He's got all these Pomeranians he loves to death. He's got stuff on display right when you come to his house. I mean, he really is his craft, and you can tell that the way that he is one of the reasons that he's as good as he is. A lot of people that make things, be it blades, rods, ceramics, anything that's craft oriented, they literally put themselves into what they're doing, quite literally. And the energy of your body is transferred into what you do, and people don't realize that. And I truly believe that that's the case. That's why I think that when something's handcrafted as opposed to mostly being done by machine, that there's this kind of a life of its own that's created. I really wholeheartedly believe that. And it exudes in his work. So, enough said about Ron and his work. It's phenomenal. So I get this rod, and for, quite a while, I'm beating up fish left and right with it. I even got like 25-pound carp, 12-pound channel catfish. I've gotten these bigger scale fish that this rod has handled. So I'm really satisfied with it. Some of the things that I wanted to try out, one thing for example was to have an uplock reel seat. And it's important for me to mention this because downlock versus uplock, most are commonly downlock. The screw thread comes back to the reel's prongs that come off the top. This naturally puts the reel a little bit further back. It lends itself to certain types of balance, and it's good for general use. I do a lot of really light, and I mean like super light jigging. So I have to have the utmost in control, and I can't feel my hands. So a lot of it is, I feel, is with tension and by my sight. I do this with my pistols and my blades too. Everything's literally by tension and sight and memory of repetition. So it's important for me to things work a certain way. So I got it in an uplock, which pushes it more toward the front of the handle mass, not at the center line so much. It takes it a good 2 to 3 inches forward to where it normally would be. And it's a really long handle on my rod. So it's more forward balancing than most rods. Well, that lends itself to sitting in my hand a certain way. And I can be real close with it, or I can be really expanded so I can have just these little tiny bits of control. And that tip is so sensitive. That whole rod is so sensitive that you can sit it down at an angle against something, like if you're redoing line, and it'll sit there and it'll wiggle for like 3-4 minutes straight without stopping. It's how sensitive this rod is. It's a Bushido Brink. Bushido is a pretty good brand of blank. So, the other thing that he does is, and I believe he does this, haven't asked him, is I think that he finds the spine of the rod so that he can get the bend to be completely correct. Because most mass-produced ones, they don't do that. They throw them on an assembly line, they're using the machines to wrap, and they're cured, and then they're out the door. And they do have to go through a curing process no matter what. So a lot of times with off-the-shelf rods, yeah, they'll have a good bend to them, but you'll see when they go in movement with a fish on that they kind of torque. It's because they're not on the spine. So mine's dead on the spine. So if he didn't search for the spine, he definitely had a pretty accurate assessment of where it might be in the first place. All of the guides on this rod, the first one was one of those little tornado ones that has a spiral into the actual eyelet, and they were micros all the way down, and it shoots line like there's no tomorrow. I mean, does it shoot things out far and easily. And I use a slip bobber rig a lot. So, but right now, unless I'm jig fishing or I'm rooster tailing or something like that in ultralight, it's pretty much going to be a slip bobber rig. It's got enough flex that even with my biggest slip bobber on, I can sit there and have perfect control, and I can just bullet the fuck out of it out in a distance on the water. It makes it great for placement in places where I normally wouldn't cast, and I can be really accurate with it. Even with back casts, I'm going across my chest and going like this, and I can predict with the way that the swing of the rod is right where to let off, and I can get it pinpointed from a yard away to like 40 yards away. I mean, really, literally is that good. And it's great at control of fish when you get one on. So it's a great rod. Here's the dynamic of where things change between an off-the-shelf and a custom. If you're going to buy an off-the-shelf rod, whether it's on eBay, Amazon, Sportsman's Warehouse, Tackle Direct, Tackle Warehouse, any of these places, Sportsman's, Dick's Sporting Goods, get the warranty, okay? You're going to have to either bring the rod in or send it in to get a replacement. I've learned this the hard way. I had a number 8 tackle Hellbent medium light for drop shot and light jerkbait work. Great off-the-shelf rod. One of the few that actually is centered along the spine, by the way. But it got cracked and it broke in half. And it was because some stupid kid ran across it. So I was going to repair it with carbon fiber rod from the RC store. And the carbon fiber rod I got was just slightly bigger than being able to fit. So I tried to force it. Well, it split fibers. I figured if I CF'd it, it would CF glued, it would be okay if I got it joined together. No, it made it weaker. If it had been a small enough carbon rod to just fit inside in a section, it would have been better off and I would have been okay. But because I didn't get the warranty and I got it from Tackle Warehouse, I wasn't able to send it in. And that's a mistake on my part because every other rod and reel that I've bought at a store or online, I've gotten the 2-year minimum warranty on. Always. So, it was a very big lesson learned. Now, with a custom rod, it's different. Most places will honor a rod maker's lifetime warranty on manufacturing defects. And they will get another one and they will build the rod complimentary because it's something that they guarantee their work on making the rod and guarantee the rod as long as it's a manufacturing defect. Let's fast forward to where I'm coming from now. My perfect rod. I had it sitting in my lap at McQueen Park. And I was baiting my other rod for catfish. I was putting a baby gill on my long slip bobber, my 12-inch, and throwing it out. And I hadn't had the bait on yet for maybe 2 seconds. And my rod just goes, the one in my lap, my custom one goes, whoop, and hits that concrete barrier, which was 2 feet in front of me, and snaps the tip. A good 3 inches, pop. Now, I pulled the fish in. It was like a 6-pound tilapia. It was fucking huge. But it popped my custom rod, and I was like, ah, fuck. There was this look of disdain on my face that the person that was a few feet away from me said was palpable and could be felt in the wind. When I invest real money in something, man, if I heard it, it sucks. And it was because I was negligent. If I had had the rod in my hand and just been patient, I would have known that. But I didn't think about that because I just had a piece of corn on my hook and I was just resting it at the shoreline. Well, this big-ass thing came right up to the shoreline and bit that corn. So, long story short, it popped the rod good. And I trimmed it up to the next eyelet, and, I didn't fish it. I was going to, but I just decided, you know what, I'm just going to go ahead and take this to Ron. And I lost another third of an inch because I trimmed it. So it's now about 6'8" or so, which is still a decently sized rod. I mean, it will work just fine. But this is where things separate. I was going to go and get a Kmart tip and just super glue another one on. But because I got this done by somebody who's an artist at what they do and loves what they do, I decided to contact Ron and said, look, this wasn't a manufacturing thing. This was from a fish just beating the hell out of it on the shoreline. I told him the whole thing. And he said, all right, bring it in. I'll put on a new tip free charge. Now, keep in mind something. Anytime a custom rod maker guarantees their work, they're putting their ass on the line for you. And it takes time out of their other stuff. Whether they're slow or not, you're still taking their time. But it depends on where they're located, too, as to whether that's worth it to both of you, both parties involved. Because he's all the way out, 30, 40 minutes away from where I live. So the gas alone and what I'm spending to get out to him is comparable to what he's going to spend in his own right to fix the tip on my rod. So I figured it was, an even trade. But regardless of that, he was still going to replace it for free because he guarantees his work. So I got a new tip coming, I think, at some point. I told him to take his time. I said, I don't care if it takes 2 weeks. I want to have the patience because I want it done right, which I know he'll do. And I have other rods that work for the time being. And I don't fish as much as I have in the past, so I can afford to give that time to do that. I don't have to be demanding about it. And truthfully, I don't care how slow a man is. If he's retired and his business that he does is his source of income extra on top of his retirement, and it's a source of joy to him, I'm not going to rush the man or woman for that matter. Because there are some female rod builders out there that are really fucking good, by the way. So, you know, I'm glad that I got my rod through Ron. I'm glad that Southwest Custom Rods is who I went through. Now, I understand there's a lot of rod makers in Arizona that are talented. But I personally am glad with the choice that I made. And I'm going to have him make me another rod, by the way. I have to save the money, of course. But because I have a Lexa 400 swim bait reel, which is a huge fucking reel, by the way, I want the appropriate swim bait rod, which is a 9 foot, 8 foot 9 to 9 foot, preferably 9. I was going to get a Dobyns 908, but for the cost, I can get a custom one that's handmade, and probably be more satisfied with that. So, I'm going to go through Ron. I'm going to go through Southwest Custom Rods, and I've discussed this with him already a little bit. But the reel is just monster. I mean, it's ready to go. I didn't open the case of it except to pull the spool out to see how it is. I will not lube and clean this reel myself. It's too good a reel for that. I will take it to a place to be maintained this time. But I'm going to have a swim bait rod made by him. And this is where the things differ again between an off-the-shelf versus a custom. You know, I gave him the parameters of what I was looking for in a swim bait rod. I want to be able to go from a couple ounces all the way up to 34, like some of these custom baits, and be able to lob it with some distance and have control, and it not be a baseball bat rod. And there's not a lot of blanks out there that really accomplish that, unless you get an offshore rod and cut some of the length off. And even then, they don't have the best flex in the world. But custom rod makers know where they can get blanks and do stuff like that. So I told him that. He said, yes, I can do that. I'm not sure what the cost will be. I told him what the cost for a Dobyns was. So it should be somewhere in there. But I am definitely going to do it through him. And I'm anticipatory but patient on the one that I have already that's being repaired. I can handle having less length on it. I really did like having a 7'2" rod. It was a little bit, 2 extra inches doesn't seem like a lot, but on an ultralight, it makes a big difference. Is it going to be a killer because I lost 3 1/3 inches? Not really. It's still going to work just fine. But I'm going to be glad when I get it back because I really love using it with my Daiwa reel I have for it. It just kills everything I do with it, really.